What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com. And we are finally starting to maybe get a little piece of that pullback like we were talking about here. Not necessarily so much out of the SPY here, but we are starting to get that out of the Nasdaq, the QQQ. So a couple videos back here, I was talking about, what ultimately I thought would lead us into, potentially all-time highs here. And what I was talking about there was, I don't think we go straight up from here. And I was looking for this pullback to, ultimately come in out of the Nasdaq, out of the S&Ps, all of the other markets. And I think that's ultimately probably going to run us here through kind of the end of December. So I think we'll see this pullback maybe with a touch of somewhere close to highs. We'll outline that in a second over the next couple of weeks. And then as we kick off and lead into, coming up into the next earnings season, that's when I think we'll ultimately kind of see that move. Now, again, there's some things to come together with this, of course. But we did start, getting a little bit of that pullback here today, over the past couple of days, actually, and working into this gap just a little bit here, out of the Qs. So for me, there's a couple of things right now that really stand out. And one of those being, you can see a pretty decent gap down here out of the Qs today, and obviously closing red down about a point or down about 1%. And hopefully you guys can't hear the dog down at my feet chewing on a bone. But the same thing coming over, looking at the SPY, we're down 0.5% on the day, ultimately tried to go higher, tried to go lower, and then kind of, rallied back and did a whole lot of nothing. But as we take this, across the rest of the indices, you can see the the Russell here finally, really getting a breakout as of last Friday, and really starting to show, hey, maybe this thing actually wants to start participating after going sideways on this daily chart for an insane amount of time here. The whole time in which the market was rallying, the Russell here was basically going sideways. And then when we look over at the Dow, we can see we're getting continued strength here out of the Dow as well, making a really nice move over the past few days on that breakout there. And so the question becomes is like, okay, we're starting to see, a little bit of a pullback coming out of the Nasdaq here. We're seeing a big move out of the Russell and the Dow. I feel like this video is going to be super loud, and I apologize for that. But we're not getting that kind of symmetry between all of the markets, right? Like not everything is getting the pullback in which we would like it to see. We're really only seeing it kind of out of the Nasdaq here. So I'm keeping that in mind. I'm not opposed to the rest of these markets, the Russell, the Dow, getting a little bit more of a rally here. But ultimately, I do want to see a pullback in there. And it really brings the question up of, if we do find a bit of a pullback kind of bottom area here for the Qs, which I'll outline where I think that might be at, and the rest of the markets, i.e. the Russell and the Dow, are still rallying, does that then mean we get to potentially put on some sort of pairs trade where we long Nasdaq and we short the Russell and the Dow for a little bit of Nasdaq to kind of play catch up, them to at least either stall or get a start of a pullback here? And I think that's a real possibility, because that trade in reverse right now would have done really, really well over the past few days. So I do think there is a potential for that chance, coming out here with a pairs trade Nasdaq Russell in the next couple of days to couple of weeks, right? That trade has to develop a little bit more. We have to find a little bit more of a concrete-ish type of bottom here out of the Nasdaq. And really for me at the moment, the bigger picture thing in which I'm looking at here, bro, is 391.29's up here for the QQQ. Over that level, then I think we can kind of start to get a little bit more excited from a new all-time highs trying to be called out of the Qs. But until we do that, right, and actually confirm above it and really make things happen, not just rally up and test it and reject, which I also think is probably very likely here at some point as well. But until we get over it, we're actually trading above it, we're confirming the levels, then I'm not really too excited for that new all-time high, call in which, I think will be made at some point here, right? So we're really in an interesting position, and I'm not too in love with really anything. So if we had to summarize right now, I think it's a waiting game We have big moves coming out of, things like gold today. I mean, gold getting absolutely smacked to the downside here after being up nicely in the after hours. I mean, this thing just shot up 50 points and then sells off 110 points throughout the course of the overnight session and today, right? That's a big range. I mean, we're talking $11,000 per contract worth of movement out of gold here, which is just insane. I don't know the last time. I can't remember off the top of my head the last time in which I can remember a 100-point plus gold range on the day. And the market's not do anything like super crazy, right? I mean, we're essentially flat here kind of across the board between, everything, right? So really kind of interesting, down small, obviously out of Nasdaq, up small out of Russell and Dow kind of thing. So I expected to see a little bit more coming out of, the indices today with the gold move here. And even then across the board, I mean, we look at any number of individual equity names, and I think it's kind of a sit on hands type situation, right? Like we look at Tesla here. Tesla over the past couple of days here, made a nice rally there for one day, got the gap up, tried to go higher, pulls back, finds this 231 area as support again, tries to go higher. Today ultimately ends as a nice little doji day in there. So I think Tesla's in a really interesting spot. We did start to see some decent pullbacks here out of some names like Netflix, which was super extended. Microsoft on the list there as well. Nvidia here with a nice pullback, off those 500 highs and the earnings and all of those things. So we're really in just a very interesting spot right now across the board. We're in the last month of the year. We're probably going to see what you would think. Bro, get out of here. Some sort of Santa Claus rally, but we've seen that over the past couple of months. So the bigger question is what do we do right here? And I think for the most part, I think we just sit on hands. We wait for some of these levels out of the Qs in order to confirm. Look for a little bit more continuation to the downside, I think, here just temporarily. And then see what that relationship does, across the board with the rest of the indices. So not a ton to report here. Earnings names for this week are pretty lax. We've got AVGO and Lulu later on in the week. So right now for me, I just want to let these charts develop. Hopefully you guys did not get hurt today inside of this action. And let me know in the comments down below if there's anything you guys are watching, any tickers that are moving that maybe I'm missing. And we'll see if we can start to put together a week here. So take care. Hope it helps. And I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.